The history of organized crime in America is often dominated by the shadows of New York and Chicago. But for several decades, the city of Milwaukee sat under the absolute, iron-fisted control of one man, Frank Balistrieri. Known to the public as a sophisticated businessman and to the underworld as the Mad Bomber, Balistrieri was a figure of immense intelligence, chilling cruelty, and a strategic mind that allowed him to bridge the gap between small-town racketeering and the billion-dollar skimming operations of Las Vegas. His life story is not just a tale of crime, but a chronicle of the rise and eventual disintegration of the Italian-American Mafia in the Midwest. Unlike many of his contemporaries who rose through the ranks via street brawls and petty theft, Frank Balistrieri was a man of refinement and education. Born in 1918 in Milwaukee, he was the son of Sicilian immigrants. He attended Marquette University and eventually enrolled in law school. While he never completed his legal degree, the time he spent studying the law gave him a distinct advantage over his peers. He understood the intricacies of the legal system, the loopholes in corporate structures, and the importance of maintaining a veneer of legitimacy. His entry into the upper echelons of the Milwaukee crime family was accelerated by a calculated personal move. He married Antonina Alioto, the daughter of John Alioto, who was the boss of the Milwaukee Mafia at the time. This marriage was essentially a merger of blood and business. By the early 1960s, John Alioto stepped aside, and Frank Balistrieri was officially recognized by the Commission in New York as the head of the Milwaukee family. He would hold this position for over 30 years, turning a relatively small organization into a highly profitable and feared satellite of the Chicago outfit. Balistrieri earned his most terrifying nickname, the Mad Bomber. During the 1960s and 70s, he had a particular preference for using explosives to settle disputes, a method that served two purposes. It eliminated the target and sent a loud, visceral message to anyone else considering defiance. The most famous example of this was the 1970 assassination of Augie Palmisano. Palmisano had been a rival in the vending machine and gambling business who dared to challenge Balistrieri's monopoly. On a cold June morning, as Palmisano stepped into his car, a remote-controlled bomb obliterated the vehicle. The explosion was so powerful that it shattered windows blocks away and left little of the victim behind. This act of violence cemented Balistrieri's reputation. He was not just a businessman in a suit, but a predator who would literally blow his opposition into the atmosphere. Under his leadership, the Milwaukee family controlled everything from the city's strip clubs and gambling dens to the vending machine industry and the local Teamsters Union. He operated out of the Shorecrest Hotel and various social clubs in the city's Third Ward. His influence was so pervasive that it was often said that not a single coin dropped into a jukebox in Wisconsin without Frank Balistrieri getting a percentage of it. The true peak of Balistrieri's power came when he aligned himself closely with the Chicago outfit, specifically with bosses like Joey Aiuppa. Because of Milwaukee's proximity to Chicago, Balistrieri acted as a high-level lieutenant for the outfit's interests. This connection brought him into the golden era of mafia involvement in Las Vegas. During the 1970s, the mafia controlled several major casinos, including the Stardust, the Fremont, and the Hacienda. Through the use of frontmen and the infiltration of the Teamsters Pension Fund, Balistrieri played a crucial role in the skim, the process of taking untaxed cash directly from the casino counting rooms before it was officially recorded. This money was then couriered across the country to the bosses in Chicago, Kansas City, and Milwaukee. Balistrieri's sons, Joseph and John, both of whom were lawyers, were often implicated in the legal maneuvering required to keep these operations running. The Milwaukee boss was a master of using the Strawman technique, where legitimate-looking individuals were placed as owners of businesses while he pulled the strings from the shadows. This period represented the height of his wealth. As millions of dollars flowed from the desert of Nevada into his pockets in the Midwest, the downfall of the Mad Bomber began not with a rival's bullet, but with the patient, technological persistence of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. By the late 1970s, the FBI had launched Operation Strawman, an intensive investigation aimed at dismantling the Mafia's control over Las Vegas casinos. Agents managed to plant sophisticated electronic surveillance devices in Balistrieri's inner sanctum, including a bug hidden in his favorite booth at a local restaurant and others within his business offices. These recordings were a goldmine for federal prosecutors. For the first time, the government had clear, undeniable evidence of Balistrieri discussing the distribution of skimmed money, the planning of violent acts, and the coordination with other mafia bosses across the country. The tapes revealed a man who was increasingly paranoid, yet remained arrogantly confident in his ability to outsmart the law. The pressure intensified when internal cracks began to show in the Milwaukee family. High-ranking members and associates, fearing long prison sentences or sensing that Balistrieri's temper was becoming a liability, began to cooperate with the government. The most significant blow came when Ken Ito, a high-level gambling operative for the outfit, survived a botched assassination attempt and decided to tell the FBI everything he knew about the Midwest operations, including Balistrieri's involvement. In 1984, the legal walls finally closed in. Frank Balistrieri was indicted on charges related to the Las Vegas skimming operation and his control over illegal gambling in Milwaukee. During the trial, the image of the invincible mob boss was replaced by that of an aging, though still defiant, defendant. He was eventually sentenced to 13 years in federal prison. While incarcerated, the Milwaukee crime family began to wither. Without his charismatic and terrifying leadership, the organization lacked the cohesion to survive the aggressive federal crackdowns of the 1980s. In 1986, he faced further convictions for his role in the casino skimming case, alongside other top bosses from the Chicago and Kansas City families. Frank Balistrieri was released from prison in 1991 due to failing health. He returned to Milwaukee, a city that had changed significantly during his absence. The old neighborhood enclaves where he once ruled were being gentrified, and the fear that once surrounded his name had faded into historical curiosity. He spent his final months in relative obscurity, suffering from heart and kidney ailments. On February 7, 1993, the man who had once been the most feared individual in Wisconsin died of natural causes at the age of 74. His death marked the symbolic end of the Milwaukee Mafia. Unlike the flamboyant bosses of New York who sought the spotlight, Balistrieri was a man who preferred the cold efficiency of the shadow and the devastating impact of the explosion. He remains a singular figure in American criminal history, a law school-educated patriarch who chose a path of violence and racketeering, proving that even in the quiet streets of the Brew City, a Mad Bomber could build an empire of fear that reached all the way to the neon lights of Las Vegas.